little. They did. Right, right. You mean they shut it down for coming over here? Everything associated with it. Oh, they did this before, but let me see what I can pull up here. Because for a while I couldn't get nothing. No, I with your prayers all along the way. Boy, that was the best khutbah I ever heard. Uh, here's a post from Iran News 11 minutes ago. Iranian state news sites appear as seized by U.S. Iranian state news sites appear as seized by U.S. Several Iranian websites displayed messages Tuesday stating that they had been seized by the United States government. Iranian media confirmed Tuesday that a number of state-linked websites appear seized by American government without any clear reason or explanation. The State Department did not immediately respond. Do you have is the news on now? I mean, do you have us plugged up? So I'm reading this and this. Okay, good. All right. So just it'll be part of the program. The United States had seized roughly 3 dozen websites, most of which are linked to disinformation efforts. All everything you hear on Iran news, on press TV and all of that, you can take it to the bank. They have to be right. Now they're saying it's disinformation. Among the sites abruptly taken offline were state television's English language press TV, its Arabic channel Al Alam, all of them good, a Yemeni Houthi rebels Al Masira satellite news channel. The message that appeared on the sites read they had been seized by the United States government in accordance with a seizure warrant, along with the seals of the FBI, the Commerce. My goodness, boy, I'm telling you. So let me see just for a minute here what I can pick up. Because I had Crescent on this morning. Not Crescent. Okay, let me see here. Well, you can put those on pause. Well, that's okay. Uh, well, really, it's not important if they are on hold. Because now we got so many ways we can go around that let me see here what's going on. Let's try that. Okay. So that's Iran news. I can get Iran news. Okay, all right. Now, but remember, we can read through the lines on all this stuff. Let's see. There's a thing about it's been seized. I'll try Iran news, see what it says. Okay, I'll still get Iran news. We'll try to see. Today, Iran seizes 700 cryptocurrency computer miners. Okay. Let's see. Iran, so okay, so I'll just try to get what do we call it? Press TV. Press TV. It's got that government seal on it. So, yeah, Press TV. Okay. Okay, they left up the Uncle Tom sites. No, they got two. That's fine. We got. It does this. Okay. There's that. No, that. No, that. This has been. Well, we'll just get started. They're going to give them something to shut down. I'll start right into it. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I'm going to start off, since this stuff happening with Iran, I'm just going to go right into the election that they just had. If you look at the news, they said the election, they got to be mad at something. They got to be super mad. And that's what they're super mad at. See, they don't know how other people add up things. Number one, if Iran is the second country in deaths in this, whatever they call it, pandemic, epidemic, then that's going to cut down the vote. The people are not going to come out. You know, like that, a lot of other places they're not going in Iran. Okay? Because it's a doggone pandemic. And they have high numbers because the U.S. and the West won't sell them nothing to deal with their own stuff. That's why I think now they're putting out their own. Because see, the sanctions hurt, but the sanctions make you independent. They force you. So this is 40 years of forcing them. The first 10 years was during the war. When I was there during that period, they didn't have no Iranian toothpaste. They didn't have everything that came from overseas. Everything, because they They're fighting a war and they couldn't produce. But now, everything, when you go see imported stuff like computers and all that, is really high. But when you go in the vegetable market, the fruit market and all that, and I was watching something today. The guy I was on there was a friend of mine. I remember him vaguely. And the white girl that was monitoring the program, she said, yeah, they was talking about some things about Iran. He said, yeah. He said, if you want really good fruit, he said, now my parents talked about when fruit was really good and stuff like that. He said, but now, if you go in the fruit market, he said, if you want good fruit, you get the fruit that doesn't look good. But it's real, like the fruit we get off trees. It's not that stuff. You know how the fruit tastes in the fruit in the store. Unbelievable. And can you imagine, you can walk in the vegetable section of any market, Giant, any of them, Safeway, and you can't smell the fruit. You can't smell the vegetables. It's not like that at a fruit market out there. You can go and you can be outside, and you can go to the farmer's market, and you can smell when you get there. You can't, can you imagine all that big, beautiful fruit and veggies? You can't taste it, and you can't smell it. Anyway, so they was talking about that today. Says, no, when I go to Iran, they said the fruit and all of that does not look like all beautiful like it does here, but it sure tastes good. So they said that's what they're used to, real fruit, And so they said, now people that are wealthy and they want to have a big party, they get imported fruit. They said it looks beautiful, but it don't taste worth nothing. So they wasted all their money. They don't, because they want a good presentation. They want it to look good. Forget about the taste. Anyway, we're going to try to go into the recent election we just had in the Islamic Republic of Iran. And I titled it National Unity. We have a few recommendations. Now, I want to remind everyone, if they remember some of the things I didn't bring, if they remember, say, 8 or 10 years, 12, a good 8 years ago, we got some letters and messages from Iran saying that we want to hurry up and get a meeting with the Rahbar, and we need a signed paper by you. And the brother said, and we've already signed it. In other words, they got to be homeboys, you know what I mean? Said, because this new ticket, the crew that's still in now, Zarif, Rouhani, and all of them guys, they're coming in. So we want to try to nip it in the bud. It didn't go off. It took a little too long. You see how quick it is from the time the vote is over till they bring in the crew. So it happened so fast, it just wasn't time. But the point is this. The election that they just had in Iran, it was 49, 50% of the people, right? Okay. That's very good under the conditions that's happening. And the people that didn't come, was Rouhani's crew, because he saw that, well, we ain't got nobody in there, and there ain't no sense, okay. Now, what I want to say is, I'm not saying things were structured, but I do say this. The leadership had to make an assessment. This is a very critical time. It's critical for our economy. It's critical about what's going on in the world. In all 3 or 4 environments, Palestine, what I just heard this morning, there's sewage running. And this has been an open air prison since the last invasion, where we'll bomb you, kill you, and you can't rebuild nothing because we don't want you bringing in cement. They smuggle some cement from Egypt, but they say you'll build bunkers with cement. They're telling you you can't. Building over there is different. It's like building on this coast. You see a lot of bricks out there, everywhere, right? You don't see that in California because bricks don't give. Okay, so all the houses out there, most of them, they might have a little brick front, but they don't build brick houses because bricks don't give. You know what I mean? They have earthquakes there. So this timber, if it's a shaking, no matter how, you got it screwed tight together, it'll, but it won't fall down. You know what I mean? Yeah, I mean it'd have to be a real shaking for you to knock down a wooden structure. But a brick structure, you saw them that happen either with hurricanes, with these serious winds. Bricks are immovable and they just collapse. Okay, but anyway, so we have some recommendations about the Islamic Republic, about this recommendations for Iran. So, how could we produce a government of national unity out of this? Because evidently, this is a long-range election where we don't want any surprises. Maybe that's, I'm not saying that's what they did. But, see, like the Rahbar was the president before, when he became the Rahbar. And Rafsanjani even lied. He said, I heard Imam Khomeini say that Ali Khamenei would have been, somebody good. So the Masjid said, okay, we'll take him. Rafsanjani and the Rahbar was friends all that time, both young guys for the revolution and everything. And Rafsanjani thought he would manipulate the Rahbar. You know what I mean? He's figured it, very good friends, and I know how he moves. I'll be able to, to kind of. Now, Rafsanjani was the speaker of the Majlis at that time. And he had big, he was Imam Juma all the time. He had big stuff. But when the Rahbar became the Rahbar, he had his own agenda. And the further he went along in it, the less, what's his name, had, And I understand these politics and who everybody is associated with. All of the, it was Rafsanjani and it was a straight line. That was the foreign ministries. That was all of those neoliberals the guys running around now, they was all with him. Over there, in 1990, you remember that lecture where I showed you that I went to New York and I gave the talk on the sewer? That was 1990. That was the same time that certain people were getting the feeling of, they're working in a sewer and you could smell them. That means you could see who they are now. They hid before. They used a lot of stuff to break the smells. You know, they kept it quiet. But now the Imam is dead. And I haven't been up to New York since that lecture to give a lecture. That was in 1990. And I said, I didn't call that person by name, but it was clear who I was talking about. Now, half the people was on my side because that was the days before many of the revolutionaries was finishing up their education. They was going back home. Like there's the other crew stayed here. Same time, I told a friend of mine who used to pick me up at the airport and I'd stay at his house. He's the foreign minister now. In '86, when I was driving the little car I had, the back wheel came off. I was going to see the chief. I remember it perfectly well. So when I hit the brake and stopped, I saw my back wheel go. I said, you know, the car didn't make it wasn't a light car, you know, a Fiat, like station wagon. So I looked and I saw my wheel going. I said, I'll be doggone, it looks like my wheel. So anyway, I just stopped, put the wheel back on, took one lug off each one of the others, and put 3 lugs on, it had 3 on all the rest. That's plenty to hold a little car like that. So anyway, the foreign minister now was a big shot up in New York. And we was talking, he said, man, he had one of them big Chevys, a big 1980 Chevy, like, you know how big they was. And the back wheel came off. The first thing he started talking about was, I mean, it would be normal what he was saying. Man, my kids, my this, my that, you know. And when it happened to me, I didn't think like that. I just thought the wheel come off and the white man did it. And so that's it. No big deal. One of the guys, big shots down there. One of the first things he told me is we was talking one time, my family, my this, my that, and I said, I was thinking to myself, you can't be doing this and the first thing you talk about is your family. Because whatever you talk about first, that's the first thing they're going to hit. You know what I mean? What is he really attached to? And you got to let them know that ain't going to work with me. Now, I'm going to skip. I've been very, very, very fortunate. Super fortunate. Number one, about that time in '86, I told my sons, I said, hey, man, it was the same time when they had stole a lot of my papers and everything. And I told them, we could call them anytime. I said, there's nothing, you guys go out, you get around and da-da-da-da-da, and, what I told them was, I said, you have to be just like me, which that means you have to use super discipline. And I know that's impossible for them because they told you don't have that as a teenager. You don't have it. And so what I knew was they're going to have access to them. And from that period on, they picked them up, put them in jail. One time they say I had a weapon at the Masjid, and somebody said they got your son down on 96. They had a spot. So I zipped down there, and when I got there, there was a snitch in the Masjid with me, toll-free called him, said he's coming. So by the time, it's only a few blocks away, by the time I get there, the police and jam my son in the car, and they speeding away up the hill. And they gone. So I gave a khutbah maybe 10, 12 years ago, around 2008-ish. Yeah, that would be that, yeah. I said, because my sons would show me all their photo albums. I think I told y'all about this. When it happened, they said, Dad, both my sons, everybody is dead. So I asked my oldest son, you remember when I took y'all to Angel Island and that little guy for your 6th grade graduation, the little guy that had the long natural that was turning flips, you know where kids can stand flat and turn a flip, and I caught a picture of one of his friends doing that. He said, yeah, they're gone, all of them is gone. Then I realized what the government had did, and I gave khutbah on this, somewhere you could hear it. I spoke about it twice. I said, they didn't take your life, they saved your life. The government, by putting my son, will keep away from me. Because remember, all the time, 83, 84, when we're at the Masjid, they're living at the Masjid with me. So we're collaborating all the time, and they got everything I'm seeing, they're seeing. And we're just no specific meetings to collaborate on the stuff. We just talk about it. Oh, it happened to come up, and one of the guys come to stay with us from up in Colorado. He said, yeah, Dad, that guy act like a B-word personality, you know, when he make his move. I said, yeah. So you're right about that. They was right. So what they did was they saved their life. And I mean, they polluted them, but they was already headed in, they was semi-polluted already, you know. In other words, the only time they would really get heavily in Islam, I would stuff them in the car and we'd be on the road for about a month. We'd listen to all kind of tapes and they'd come back souped up. And 1 week back in Oakland, it's all gone. That's the way it was, you know, because see, they didn't want to be Muslims. They wanted me. When I came out of prison, they was pushing me. Yeah, Dad, when I'd be around some of my friends, and I might drive their car here and there, I'm still in the halfway house. It'd be one of them big old brohams. They like that. Yeah. Yeah, you got to get back in this, Dad. I said, man, don't you see we don't want no religion. Because, see, before, when I was with the chief, and I'd get them up for Fajr, and we had our house had a nice picture window where you could see well, there's San Francisco, it's in Oakland Hills, this is nice. And I would say stuff like, just imagine how thankful we are to be alive, and the this, that, and other. And they didn't like that at all. They didn't like it at all. And they would try to go back to sleep. And when they go to school, they'd be in the class sleeping, and the teacher asks them, why are you sleeping? My dad got me up this morning to pray. So And they, they didn't go back to sleep. So now I'm trying to get my sleep here in class. So anyway, they wanted me to be like what everybody talked about in the neighborhood. Like what all they did it was some pictures, a box of pictures. They saw all the pictures and they would look at them. When they get depressed, they'd pull them pictures out. Man, look at here. Look at here, look at here, look at here. So that's what they wanted me to come out and keep doing that. And my oldest son remembers those days. All the businesses and how everybody treated us, and they was sold on it. In other words, because he had a few years of it and he liked it. Well, everybody would like it. You know what I mean? At that age, young, they liked that. Big cars, popularity, everybody, So the last thing they wanted me to do was come out a preacher. Oh man, God, dog, Dad. I said, no, I'm sorry. I said, this Shahada stuff is serious. And y'all gonna have to go along with it. Your mama don't have to go along. Y'all gonna have to, because save yourselves and stone. You'll be in bad shape there, brothers. Y'all keep messing around like you're doing. So anyway, the point is that the system, thinking they're hurting us, save their lives. The numbers, like them getting killed with their friends. The numbers, it's like they would have to, one of them at least would have to be burned. One of them at least. So one time, I don't know if you remember when my oldest son was here. He got in with some dumb Negro. This Negro had a little crew. He was shooting everybody. So my son called me, yeah, Dad, so-and-so. I told him, I said, well, you get it to back. I said, has he done that to anybody else? He said, he do it to everybody. I said, don't worry. I said, you get it to back of the line. Because there's a whole line of people. If he done doing that in Oakland, it's like D.C. If you doing that in D.C., these Negroes here, you can't do it but a hot minute. So I told him, back of the line, Dad, I'm going to take care. I'm going to do it. I said, I tell you what, you come on out here. I can't do that. So when he came, I just held him up and kept him here. And we lifted iron and everything. I don't know if you remember how big he swole. Boy, that boy swole up. In fact, that's why he caught me when we was here. Because, I was pretty serious on that. So whenever he get out of the jail, we would work out. Because me and him used to work out more than the other son. Because he was old enough to be with our running crew and our workout crew, when we was really working out, running 8-10 miles. He was 10 years old. But see, at 10 years old, your head is big and your heart is big for your body. So he was pumping blood. He ran with us for a couple of weeks, and he was just cruising along. I said, good God Almighty. But anyway, so the other thing I wanted to mention is my daughters. Okay. A man is different about daughters than about sons. Figure you niggas can take care of yourself. You know what I mean. I'll come by every now and then, but But daughters, that brings the real male. You know what I mean. You wanna, who you gonna get? They 2 years old. You ain't gonna marry this kind of nigga. You ain't gonna. You just talk to yourself, of course, right? But when you ain't even worried about Negroes. So when they started in on them from Dear Mom, they thought it would depress me and make me sad. You remember how my kids used to, I'd have a table down there. Both of them, they'd do the table, they'd have a big bank account and everything. And I'd do all the table, all they'd have to do is stand there. But pretty soon you stop seeing them, both of them. Okay. The system would have thought that's going to make me sad. Nope. No sadness at all. Why? Here's why. These are daughters. You don't need to pay no attention to nothing I'm saying. Nothing. Because, number one, those family ties are going to lead you in a certain direction. Go that way, fine. It's safety. I don't have to worry about them now. They can't do anything to them. And they're going to go to the best schools in the United States. Because that's what they want them to do. So I don't have to worry about them now. To other people, they would say, that's terrible. The Quran say, take your children and they come by for me. I said, don't worry about it. After a while, they'll do just like the old timers. My son just called me the day before yesterday. Happy Father's Day. I said, y'all sound pretty energetic back there. I said, well, we got little code words. So they getting over everything, and they got, it's all right. It's no problem. It's no problem. But you got to remember, people got to get 55 or 60 years old before they learn any sense. That's a long time. So they're lucky. They don't have they have friends, but they don't have none of the original friends. The young friends, they're all dead. Right? So I want you to understand this. These dummies, by setting up these things, they relieved all pressure from me. And my ex-wife thinking it's going to cause me psychological damage? Absolutely not. Great. You stay with Boss Man, because guess what? Every day they hear something new. And all it's do is reconvince them and convince them. And when everything get right, it'll come around it. It's no getting around it. I'm not even worried about it. I'm saying that to say that certain things happen for its time. Now I want to get into the subject about, now you might think, who's the Negro think he is advising people about what to do? But I'm going to just say it real hurry so we can move on. They should take Ahmadinejad, since he boycotted the election. They should have now a government of national unity. They felt they had to put him, whatever his name is, put him in office. Raisi. Yeah. Which actually, Rais in Arabic means president. Raisi means leader, president. Rais, the head, right? Anyway, so, but they might have him scheduled like the president before was the one that they felt have enough balanced skill to be the Rahbar. Right? So if they got him scheduled to be the Rahbar, the avenue to that is not just the Supreme Court and all of that, but the presidency. The Rahbar himself is very clear and all that, but he's 82 years old. Right? Okay. So if the assembly of experts and all that have approved him as president, they would automatically approve him as the Rahbar. Right? So in them thinking ahead, can tell, maybe y'all haven't got signals, but I done already picked up on the signals, like sometimes you're in and sometimes you're out. Like Republicans is in, okay, goodbye for you. Democrats is in. Well, I'm not saying anything, but the team or that crew is in. And you could tell by the titles that they have who they would be. These are the hardliners, and these are the principalists, and those guys are the liberals. Okay. So with that, you'll understand why I'm saying what I'm saying. So I might as well say what I want to say. So they should get Ahmadinejad. Remember, it's a national ticket. And make him put him over either defense or intelligence. Either defense or intelligence. They should take Larijani, who was a Speaker of Parliament. Now, they had no reason to take him off ticket where he can't. Yeah, and they took Ahmadinejad. Okay, but remember now, for what they wanted to do, they want to make sure this guy is the president. This is not. They looking at the whole national interest. We can't take a chance, and it's not. The Rahbar is in on it. All of them are in on it. The whole ruling. Remember, it's 2 or 3 big crews that's got to approve this. So whether they say it or know it, they're thinking about the future. Right? And you got to notice now who's the only one didn't vote is, what's his name? Whatever the president is now. Rouhani. Actually, Rouhani is actually religious leaders that wear clothing. But they call them the Rouhani or Rouhaniyun. But anyway, so Larijani as foreign minister and Zarif as assistant foreign minister. Okay, here's how it goes. Now you got to think about it. Or Ahmadinejad as foreign minister with Zarif as assistant foreign minister. Why? The people who are in the, one time when I was in the airport, they have the foreign ministry section, and one of the brothers come. We would sit there. This is where the big shots are. So Zarif is in there with me, and another brother comes in. He's going to say, hey, man, Musa, how's everything? Oh, where you headed? So I'm headed to Malaysia. I'm the new foreign minister there. Okay. Who is in the foreign ministry? Them. Why he couldn't go to Syria? Why they have him stay? Why they didn't want him going to Syria when they taking care of real business? You could tell. It's just clear. We already know where everybody is. And what did somebody that we know said? They're circumventing me and they're going around me. And so he said, I'm going to quit if you don't let me go back. They said, come on, the people gone in the way. We thought you wanted to be with the Medea, Benjamin, them. They're your friends. So everybody knows what's going on. That's what I'm trying to say. What I'm offering is, how do you deal with it? You want an inclusive regime or structure. So how do you make it inclusive? Ahmadinejad talked different than he does a couple of years ago. And he was in training. He's been training himself for this. Everything he used to say would be exactly right. But it was harsh. It was harsh. He was right. He ain't never been wrong. They say, well, you're going to do this to a female, somebody in Iran. He said, y'all just assassinated or hung a woman down here in Virginia. You know, in other words, he had, Baba Kloon picked it up. Baba Kloon said they got somebody on the inside, man. And he was pretending like it was me, telling them every detail about America. So when they stuck at America, they stuck. I said, oh, you guys don't like sissies over here. And you said, he said, I didn't say that. I said, that's not a problem over here. I say, and we have a law, and I saw this lady, it was a lady that was a man, that was born with, you know, two parts, and this lady wanted to say, I'll just be a lady. And you look at her, blonde hair and everything. So the government gave her a free operation because that's something she had nothing to do with. Now, you can't go down and say, hey, I want you to change me I'm a boy, change me. Oh, we don't do that over here. Well, we'll give you a visa. You're going over there with them. They do that. Go on. Get on out of here. We don't do that. But what I mean is for things that's real. Iran is real progressive in things that are good and necessary. That was something that was that person couldn't help. So we'll fix you up. They fixed him, her, it up, and now it's a girl. And they was making those type of, no, we don't have nothing against nobody. We just, no. There's such thing as to manipulate the system for the good of the system. Sometimes that's not actually written down on things. Now this is where Nia comes in and what have you. So what we're saying is to bring the whole country along. This is similar to the lecture. I've been making the same talk for the last time I was in Iran, the one with the picture. That was what the lecture was about. National unity, national vision. Okay. The reason I played this 2009 lecture of the Rahbar is because at that time, man, they was swearing that Iran is finished. And when he came out and gave that khutbah, it just smoothed everything out, and it was wonderful. Okay, now we have to be careful about self-inflicted wounds. A government of national unity. You got your man in, Raisi. All right. Now go back, and who's the most popular man in Iran is still Ahmadinejad. He goes to a little town and there's 50,000 people there. Didn't even nobody know he was going till he got there an hour before. I mean, they like it. They love him. All right. So, but the system feels that it's not good for him now to be the president because a lot of fitna jumps up. Not from him, but there's people that hate him. I'm telling you, when I was up there at the UN, some of the people I be talking about, he just told me straight out. He said, I hate so-and-so. And I said, well, what does he do? He gives money away to the poor. He does this. And then over to Daftar, I hate so-and-so. One of our best friends. If you ever saw the picture of us at Niagara Falls with Larijani, the other Larijani, and there was another guy with curly hair. He ain't curly headed no more. He was the head of the Iranians at UC Berkeley. Everybody knows he was a good friend of mine. Because at Berkeley, we're Oakland, Berkeley's there. When they coordinated the programs, they would call them from all over the U.S. And, that's how we would work things. I was over at the place several years ago, and they know this guy is a friend of mine. And they said in words, so-and-so, da-da-da-da-da, he's with Ahmadinejad. And I said, so what? I said, well, if he has certain ideas, and he's with him, he has similar ideas. I said, we can't start devouring. A revolution cannot devour its own. In other words, we can't start consuming each other. You have to allow, after a revolution, people mature, they get a little bit of this, and some become Democrats, some become Republicans. It happens everywhere. Some are hardliners and some are softliners. But I know it's hard, but you got to leave space for everybody to be themselves. You have to. Well, Iran has been very fortunate. It's been a solid unit, but this is not the time to leave any gaps. It's evident. They sign a thing, say we're going to do, you can do this, we're going to sell that, and then they say we ain't going to do it. And they don't do it. Don't nobody say the UN don't come driving up and say, hey, you guys, you broke your stuff. We signed on to this. The UN don't say that. Today, the UN the head of the UN, not the head, but the phony head, he says they just sanctioned Yemen today. I don't know if anybody. They sanctioned Yemen. And you know what the guy said? We had to do it. Basically, he said this. We had to do it because Saudi Arabia, didn't mention their name, and all those guys with all the money will cut off all our other programs. So the United States is in on it. And Yemen is the most egregious human disaster in the world. Right? But remember now, but that's clear to everybody. They said so the world sees it. Today, in Afghanistan, y'all be hearing the news, right? The U.S. left 3-4 days ago, and the Taliban and took over. You hear that? The Taliban, 20 years. These idiots, 20 years. Right? Thousands of Americans dead. They didn't drop daisy cutters. The biggest bomb, they drop it on a parachute. It's so big. 15,000 tons, something like that, right? Do you know that daisy cutter, that big bomb? They done dropped it on Afghanistan years ago. They done did all of that, and now they are running out, and then the Taliban, which they supposed is right behind them. But the Taliban is on different relations with Iran now. They're still killing tons of Shias in Afghanistan. But with that long border, it'll work out. But not for the U.S. The U.S. did all that killing and murder. And all them weapons over there, they don't know what to do with them, so they got to ship them all back to the U.S. or try to sell them over there to somebody. They can't sell them. They're too new. That's U.S. policy. Iraq they kill, unbelievable, unbelievable. Syria, unbelievable. All of that is on the U.S. thing, and they're talking about freedom and this, that, and other. The world looks at them people like they're crazy. They look at them like they are. They're not making a mistake. Man, these people is crazy. Man, you see what they're talking about? They are really, okay. Now, here's our opportunity now. Okay, people know what our batting average is too. And some of those people know it very well. And that's why they have a trip with somebody coming over here to try to get us to change our mind back in the summer. You ain't heard nothing since then, right? They sent somebody from there to here. That other crew, Talib Zadi and them, remember how they couldn't wait to get us all on camera? All of a sudden, nothing else. Because they wanted America to be what they wanted it to be, and we said it ain't that. Black lives matter. I said, black lives don't matter. I said, black lives do not matter in America, right? And they don't. They matter to me and you, but they don't matter to them. We told them that. And we told them all the other stuff to go along with it. You didn't hear about us no more in the press. That's a crew. That's the same crew that invited all. You should have saw the people they invited the last 9 or 10 years. Huh? Right. Right. Yeah. Highly regarded, yeah. Well, it's clear. No, they took us off all at one time. No, not at all at one time. They had several. We had a few runs with them. We had a run in them with them down there on Press TV when we talked about they homeboys. What's the white man up there? We told him, you meet us in Philadelphia. Daniel Pipes and that crew. All we told him was, yeah, you meet us up there. We'll talk about this stuff. I don't think Imam Musa has a bad attitude. We're not going to go. I said, I know you ain't going to go, because every time you notice all the Zionists, see, you haven't seen all of them, but we slaps them around just because that's who they are. So the same thing with that Russian TV. So I told one big old Euro, I said, hey man, I said, I don't know where you go to sleep at, but it's far, far away. In other words, I was telling him that you're not up on the stuff the way it is. And they did, they didn't want to see a huffing, puffing Negro talking to white people like that. And so that's why no more RT. It don't make no difference whether it's Russians or Negroes, but they don't, or Iranians. The same thing, but okay, forget about that. 95% of ability is stickability. You have to stick. You never get depressed. You never say, oh, it's bad now. Just stick. Why? Like the weather changes, the climate changes, these people change. And they all show they behind. They're like the baboon. Oh boy, that's my favorite character. No, he's that big red behind, right? Zarif showed his behind. Rouhani showed his behind. All of them showed they behind. And they used to have our friend, they'd had a little white lady from Italy, I think. A little blonde-headed white lady. I forget her name. She would always they would be standing next to our friend all the time. Even when she would come to Iran, she would wear a little hijab, and I said, that's a pious little old peck of wood. That bad, I don't know, anyway. I thought they'd sit her up next to Zarif and soften them up. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's kind of apparent. Because if you think of them jiving, you watch all the little, when they was appearing 6, 7 years ago, that it was right now. So he was talking to her all the time. She was running everything from them through her. Yeah, Mugarini, that's her name, Miss Mugarini. Yeah, that's her. If you saw her, you would see, yeah, Mugarini. Okay. Here's the thing. We have to this is a chance right now. And you have to be optimistic, you have to be loving and kind, and you have to be all of those things to have this attitude. You see the lady I'm talking about? Yeah, that's her. That's her. Once you see her, if you look at some of the stuff, you'll see that every time you look up, just scroll, and you'll see her standing next to the reef and all of them. With all the things. Just see there? You could tell. You could look at it and tell, right? Yeah, you can look at it and tell. Okay, we watching everything. Ain't nothing getting by. I'm telling you, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Ain't nothing getting by. They can do all of what they want, but it ain't getting by. We just don't mention it right away. Let's try to make this make sense. Manipulate the system for the good of the system. That means it may be a little possibility that they excluded certain people from getting in there to get the vote because they didn't want too many people drawing votes here and there. Because remember, all the recent elections, it was a off-brand guy that won the election. Ahmadinejad was just sitting there, anybody think he was a mayor of doggone, what's the name of this, Tehran. He wasn't supposed to win nothing. And then they got a runoff and then he won. The same thing with literally a lot of these guys. I think Rouhani was the same way. The only one that came out flat out that got it all was the one before Ahmadinejad. What was his name? Khatami. We love everybody. Well, we don't love everybody, but dialogue of civilizations. And I wrote him a note when we was at you. So how you gonna have a dialogue with people with 500 years of bad behavior? So he said, and the brothers the brothers passed him the note, and so the brothers wrote my name. Because at the meeting, every year we would go up at the UN when the presidents from all over the world come. And so we would always hang out with them. They'd have a meeting with them. So they wrote, this is our brother Abdul Alim, because he mentions me by name. He says, according to we're not having a dialogue with the government, we're having a dialogue with the people. I said, you think you're trying to fool? You're trying to fool somebody, a dialogue of civilization. Well, who the hell going to represent the civilization? But it's okay. That's why you haven't heard nothing from him. He's been under house arrest for a while. You ever heard anything from him? You heard from Ahmadinejad. He's running around. Why isn't he running around? Why isn't, I ain't going to mention all their names, but there's a whole crew of people you don't hear from. You know, they're not in the penitentiary. They just under house arrest. Maximum security house arrest. You can go to the bathroom and in the yard, or other than that, that's it. People can come see you. Can have 3 visits a week. But you can't have no whole big meetings there, like 1,000 people at your house. You know what I mean? You can't do that. I'm not saying that they deserve it or nothing. Anyway, so Ahmadinejad, I think, would be a good either a foreign minister with Zarif in the back of it. Why? Zarif and them, Dr. Karazi and all of them, they control the foreign ministry. That's why they couldn't go to Hezbollah meetings that they can't go to. They can't, that they don't. They know what they control. You see what I mean? But now, on a ticket of national unity, it's when everybody, and this is hard. Last time I talked to Iranians, I was telling them the same thing, and they hated this idea. You can't, these people are so bad, they're you know, and then they describe who they really are. They're trying to sell out the revolution. Okay. Either you can keep that attitude and you can weaken the fabric of the revolution. Now, to me, the thing is held together very well, and it probably will continue just like that. But why take a chance? Incorporate Karazi's people, Zarif and them, all of that liberal crew. I know they're not smart and fast, but they can see, Zarif can see now that you're not running for president of the United States or the Senate, right? In the United, but remember, you would think, you watch him and all, you would think he was running for, you'd think he was from right down the street. And they would be blowing it, they would be playing him like that. They wouldn't be with no real hard, why you do this, why you do that, right? They didn't do that. And he didn't answer like that. Okay? Incorporate all those people so all the rich and all the bootlickers are going to be with them. Bring them along and bring the bootlickers too. Or 40 or 50% of the bootlickers. The people that didn't vote in the last election was all with them. You see what I mean? You could count how many people, 4, 6, 75% or 70 or something like that. Okay, then who didn't go? Their crew didn't go. But in order to manage a country, you have to bring everybody along. Or you don't have to. But you can't run the country with big gaps. Remember the last thing we had on Shiism? On the Rahba, Vilayat Faqih. All the Muslims here are with them. And I'm not going to call Ayatollahs, but you could tell they're all with, even the Negroes. I said, nigga, what's wrong with you? Yeah, well, I'm with in Iraq, and you know, nigga, you is stupid. And y'all ain't even having no custom, y'all ain't doing nothing but sitting out there. You might as well be a Sunni, nigga. Right? Tell the truth. They might as well, what's up? I mean, you know, not to, don't worry about it. I'll straighten it out later. Now, why would I have the right to talk about that? Because when I was in California, I was assaulted, they did this, they did that, and I still say the same thing. That's an example to them. And the president of Iran, I mean, the expert, he knows that, and so do all other guys. So I'm not speaking, I'm speaking with authority. On that subject, I'm not going to allow nothing to happen, and I'm not going to do nothing to no Negroes, because the Negroes was made to do whatever they do, whatever they did, right? So I'm a living example. You can do this. You just got to grow. You're talking about my mama, so what? You're a grown man. Stop hollering, right? They busted me upside the head. I had to go to the hospital. Didn't know my name. I didn't know nothing. I could talk that stuff, and it was true, right? Remember how silly I looked when you came to the hospital? I bet I just looked out as silly, sitting up there. What's your name? Now, how the hell do I know my name? Where you at? They asked you them questions for a week before. You got to answer them all before you. Where are you at? So I realized that I'm in my room, and I could look. What day is this? So I'm looking at the count that day. Everybody got it. This is the 21st of January. Where are you at? I'm at GW. Da 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 da. What's your name? They got everything wrote up there. Then they looked around and said, forget that. Then they come rolling me or walking me outside. What's your name? I'll tell you in a little while. What day is it? It's daylight. You can see all that daylight out there. Why are you asking me a stupid question? What day is day? See that day? You can't see it on the board. You don't even know it. Okay. Now, if I can do that, they can do it. You see what I'm saying? That was the reason for that to happen. Man, look at here. Okay. Well, no, okay. Technically, it's not arrogant. We are about as big as you can get, unless you're just going to wear a name tag, said I'm the president. But I mean, for what we stand for, we're already doing that. I mean, from the way the government feels, from the way everybody else, they know what it is. You know, all this stuff really happens. You know, and there's nobody you could get that can sit right here. And it's done with ease. It ain't even that this election's over. So now how could that really get the benefit of that? You got to know what's going on. You got to know the people. You got to know how they act. You got to know how. That's why Iranians used to ask me years ago, Imam Musa, what are we going to do? In other words, what are they going to do back in Iran? That was the main. Anyway, manipulate the system for the good. So we already thanked Allah for freeing up the sons and the daughters. That has to do with there's something called zuhud. Does anybody know what zuhud is? Zuhud. Yeah, good. Yeah, okay, zuhud. Good. It's detachment mainly. It's detachment. That's the simple word. But it's a big deal. Okay? You can do this. Boss man bites the dust because you're not attached to nothing. If you're attached to anything, you can't do that. Because first thing you thinking about, I talk like that, they're going to take my car. If I talk like that, they're going to blow up my house. If they talk right, that's what it means. Boss man. Boss man now is frustrated. Boss man is trapped in a history he produced. Everything we talked about today, whether it's Saudi Arabia and that bum that they supporting, and they kill Khashoggi, and they do this, that, and other, cut him up with a ball. They're trapped in their own history. They're trapped in the whole world watching, and they saying, we're going to put sanctions on the UN. I mean, we're going to put sanctions on Yemen. And the little kids got arms the same size as a finger, right? I'm trying to tell you, the whole world is watching. The whole world do not have to do anything on a certain date. You know what I mean? But imagine the world watching. They said, I thought such and such, no matter what lie they tell on the news, everybody knows it's been 6 years of the invasion of Yemen by Saudi Arabia. And all the weapons come from the UK and the United States, right? And all the atrocities are coming from the other side, right? Everybody knows that. They know that the U.S. spent 20 years in Afghanistan and ain't got nothing for it but wasting a lot of money and slaughtered a lot of people. Don't mention Iraq. Look at Kishore Mahbubani he said the U.S. then got trapped in everything, and China ain't got trapped in nothing. So who the hell you think gonna win? What do you mean? Who's gonna win? They already won. They ain't dragging nothing. You know what I mean? You're spending all your money that you don't have, right, on wars. All that money just go to your rich already, to the big companies that produce weapons, right? Concentration of wealth, concentration of the people don't get nothing. Maybe 5 or 10 people work in the defense industry, but nobody else, the whole country don't get that money. In China, plenty of faults, but right now, they're shining like a superstar because all the misery, they're not producing any misery. You know what I mean? They're not producing any misery. And they're talking about, what is it, the Uyghurs? Well, why ain't no Arab talking about them, ain't no Iranian said it's wrong. Why they got all the Arab countries, China got good relations with them? Why? It's a lie. It's a lie. It's just the only people here they gave a visa, and they talking about it. That stuff. Yeah, that stuff is not happening. It's not happening. Now you see people on the TV, but you got to watch Chinese TV to see it. They're not going to let you see too much Chinese TV here. And they definitely, you see what they did. Why would they, right in the middle of this, pull Press TV again? Why would they pull Al-Manar? Well, I know why they would, from Lebanon. All the Sunnis, all the Arabs, they love Al-Manar years ago. They pulled it. Said, that's the only place they could get good news. What about the people of the world that love Palestine? Is Saudi Arabia helping Palestine? Is all the rich Arabs helping Palestine? Who? Iran, that don't have no money hardly. Who? Huh? Cuba. Yeah, but see, you got to remember, at a certain time, sometime the label is just mislabeled. they may mislabel people. But anyway, they probably pray and fast. Anyway, there's many hadith on them too, but I won't go into them now. Here's what we say. The United States was already heading down from Korea, from Vietnam, and all of that. And it had a few little comebacks, and it looked like, in the Bible, Quran, when it says something happened in one day, well, like if it was the whole universe, everything in 6 days, it don't mean 24 hours. It means 6 periods of time. And that could be 50,000 years each period, because the Quran even says that it could be 50,000 years as you count, right? A day could be. Okay, so, and even that is not like a keep your, mind on 50,000. It could be 50 million. It could be a lot, So anyway, let me go on and speed it up. I didn't mean to even stay here this long. Harness all the segments of Iranian society. They could do it. They have done it. You have to be involved in it or something to understand what they've done. You notice every time I got to speak to people from Iran, I said, I want to thank y'all for da-da-da-da-da. They don't even know what they did. All because they mostly a little hungry here and there. They got to hustle. And they're too busy to think about what they've done. But we here can see part of what they've done. And they done knocked these people for a loop, man. And they just hit them with another haymaker, and we don't even know what it was, because they cut everything off the thing right away, right? So that means they got hit. We have to I'm going to go back and sit down and say, now, what did they hit them with? Let me see. Was it black magic, white magic? Something hit them. They just got hit bad. It could be the simple election. It could be the simple election. I heard them talking about it's going to be 20%. Well, if you got 50%, that's 30% higher. Well, they've always made that mistake. They always go by what Iranian people say. Like, for instance, cab drivers. If you'd have got in a cab in 1989, you would have thought Iran won't last 2 weeks. Because Iranians are complainers. I don't know if I mentioned that before. They complain. But at the same time, they sent all their best pistachios, everything up to the war front by the busloads, right? All the Americans that they would let come to Iran, they would catch a cab. You speak English? Yes. What do you think about what's going on here? This place is the craps. I'm telling you, it's going to fall down tomorrow, probably today. I'm going to hurry up and get you to your hotel before it collapses. And when they came back here, that's what they put in the paper. They don't know. That's a national pastime. Complaining. Complaining. And it's an old saying. My brother knew it, and my older brother. But then even one of the Rouhanis up there in Canada was telling a story about a guy who's sitting on the steps, and he was crying. And so the other guy came and sit down, and he had bread and everything. He saw him crying, so he started crying too. So the other guy asked him, "Why are you crying?" Oh, he asked the first guy, "Why are you crying?" He said, I don't have no bread." "Why are you crying?" And the old saying, "Man, this guy is crying with a loaf of bread under his arm." That was the old Negro saying, but it probably came from Persia. "You're crying? Nigga, you crying? You got 2 cars, 3 houses, and 2 cutie pies. And you sitting up here moaning and groaning. What do you want? What's wrong with you? You're crying with a loaf." If you got it good, it's still a saying amongst old blacks. That nigga crying with a loaf of bread under his arm. I'm sure it came from Iran. So that's what the cab drivers, all the people do there. That's their national pastime, is complaining. It's cultural. But they sending all the good stuff up to the war front. They fighting like HELL, and they ain't even batting an eye. But if you ask them how they do it, "Oh man, this is craps," and they happy as they could be. It's a custom. You know, it's a custom. And the Americans didn't know it. That's why, if you think back years ago, all of what they ever said on the news, the revolution gonna fall next week, gonna fall in 3 days. This is the last nail in the coffin of the revolution. Especially 2009, boy, they said, that's it. These assassins had shot a little girl named Nadal, something, Nadal, I don't know. Yeah, it was really mean. And they had guys on motorbikes shooting Revolutionary Guards. Everybody in Iran knew that those were munafiqeen, because the traffic is so bad in Iran. If you shoot anybody and you get in a car and try to get away, you can't get to half a block. So everybody do all the murders and killings, assassin, one on the bike riding and the other one shooting. And that's the way they do. That's munafiq style. Everybody knew it in Iran. They knew that nobody killed that girl but munafiqs. Okay, thank Allah, government freeing up, da-da-da-da-da. Back to my family, I thank Allah for freeing up. When they sent my sons to the penitentiary, they're still alive. Now, it would be all right, or it would be reasonable to think if all their friends and their environment was all alive, right? But if all their friends, each one of them, the oldest one and the young, they're dead and gone. And I looked at the whole class back in 77, 78, 77, 78. Yeah, when they graduated from, when the oldest son graduated from elementary school, all of the people are dead. Even some of the girls in OD'd of heroin and stuff. Years ago. Because these guys are 50-something years old. They're almost going to be old as me in a minute. That's what I tell them. I said, man, y'all almost old as me. I ain't getting you no advice. You old as I am. You know, a government of national unity. I might slow down. I'll say a few more things. That's the main thing I wanted to talk about. Not the main thing. Let's see several more pages here. Suffering and sanctions. You lose a wealthy middle class, but you consolidate the poorer people. See, the people that should be whining and crying in Iran are not. They need help bad. But there's some good things. The things that cost a lot of money in Iran now are things that come from outside. Computers, laptops, this, that, and other, right? The stuff inside Iran, fruits, vegetables, foods, they rolling. And Iran got a certain climate that's nice up in the mountains. Then they got the desert climate. A whole huge percentage of it, most of it is desert. And you can grow and grow and grow as long as you got water. They're making use of that. Okay. Sanctions. When the Prophet's wife, Khadijatul Kubra, died, it was during the boycott in Mecca. So sanctions hurt in some ways and they help in another. Number one, they trim off all the fat. You start appreciating what you have. You know. And number two, you get pretty smart. I don't know if anybody ever watched some of the new stuff they have on, you can see it later on Crescent, is that Crescent, not Crescent, but Press TV and all that, about their industry. They have a section on one of their industries all the time. They're on a roll. When I go to Iran, the tomatoes are giant red tomatoes. The doggone lettuce is 25% bigger than the lettuce, and it's heavy. You know what I mean? The tomatoes there are heavier. That means here they just get puffed up, you know. There they're growing at a nice slow rate and they get concentrated and they're full of vegetables, easy to digest, all kind of good stuff. Let's see. This major contest is okay. I said a little bit before about the stuff about kindness and peace and optimism and cooperating with it. I can teach this with authority because this didn't happen to me. I can teach brotherhood with authority because there's been bad brotherhoods here, been surrounded by, let's call them those people. And they have done it with, pretty reasonable attitude. Actually, with just what we call it, love, optimism, and what have you. The major, okay, 20% non-voters, okay. Colombia, Mexican, okay. Black on black. This is about different people. Black on black, they instigate that. Mexican on Mexican, Mexican mafia, Mexican La Familia. They kill each other. Who would tell them that? Mexicans kill Mexicans. Right? They come from the same doggone village, they look the same. The boss man. Black on black, Negroes killing each other. Boss man. Colombians on Colombian, boss man. Iranian on Iranian, boss man. Arab on Arab, boss man. All of it. Boss man. Okay. Zuhud, love, kindness, optimism. The proof, what I'm talking about is we've been living it. It seems like to a lot of people, they're going to count everything and number of masajid, number of people coming there. We don't count, we don't use those. Those are not our criteria at all. When we come to Jummah, if we have 3 people, it's enough for Jummah. That's the way it's been all the time. We have Jummah. If not, we'll pray Dhuhr and go on home. and be just as happy and laughing, turning flips. Okay. Harness the power of people. I would mention 634, the surrender of Jerusalem. And Bilal called the Adhan and everybody was crying. Does anybody remember that in history? They was thinking about, they hadn't heard Bilal call the Adhan and all, and it reminded them of the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But this is only 2 years after. Anyway, when we hear this stuff to you, maybe all that Mag Bag America and all that, that was a real big period. You know, for 10 years of that, the Imam was alive. And that was the time the oppression is the same, or in some cases even greater now than then. But that time wasn't proven. You didn't have no guarantee, you didn't have no 5 years under your belt, you didn't have no 10 years under your belt, and everything this could be it. And all I had to do was go out and convince all the young people who were young then, the Iranians, that we're going to make it to this. That's the first time I met Javad Zarif. Javad Larijani. That was at UC Berkeley in Dwinelle Hall. That was back on the 7th of Tyr, 1981. Yes, it was. When they killed all those martyrs and when hey man, it looked like, that's after a whole series of slaughters. And I could look out at the audience and all of them was crying. They'd been up crying for days. Is this thing gonna last? And I jumped right up there and tell them, of course it is. Don't you worry about a thing. And there's a crew that remembers that. And we tight as a drum. You could tell from the letter it was one guy's writing, I didn't sign this. That's got to be your homeboy. You know what I mean? That's got to be your homeboy. Okay, let's just take it easy for a few days and we'll see how. One thing about it, the bums are not running things right now. But we don't call them the bums. We call them your loving friend. Right? That's what the Quran tells us we ought to do. That's what Yusuf did to his brother, right? La tatraba. Shoot, they ain't did no worse than they did to Yusuf. Throwed him down the well and talked trash about him. Everything else, right? So Yusuf forgave them. This stuff is too big right now for us to be bothering with all that low stuff. This is too big right now. Let's go. That's what la tatraba means. Okay. And remember, all our talk, we're going to get a chance to live it over and over again. Everything we say, don't you worry. The situation going to come back and say, let's see about that, you know. And we're going to have to live it. And so far, we've been doing it with ease. With ease. Imam Jamil, somebody called me yesterday and said that he's totally blind now and all that. Did you hear that? Yeah. And I just got a call from, anyway, he's holding up. He's holding up. About him?
About him, yeah, but about anything else.
Anything else, yeah.
It's like, a lot of newspapers, they don't print news anymore. You can go to the news, television, but you got to listen to stuff that they're showing at the time.
No, but see, you can, when we were totally isolated here from overseas, I'm talking about 20, 30 years ago, it would take a week for us to get Tehran Times. Tehran Times is a modest, but we would have to wait a week or 10 days for it to get here. So we had a program, if something happened like an election happened, like, okay, so everybody's going to have a program tomorrow, the next day, the weekend on the election. If they were active on campus like they used to be. So I would have to go and I would have to talk about those elections, and we wouldn't have the information. It took too long for it to get here, right? So I got used to being able to read between the lines. That's why I'm not bragging, but I already know what reality is. That 95% of the stuff that we talk, whatever, it's already either done happened or it's happened 5 times or 100 times over, or it's getting ready to happen. All we got to do is brace ourselves for what, it is too consistent. And that's why they used to say, Imam Musa, what are we going to do next? But that's all from Allah. Negroes, I'm not going to even talk about our Negroes in California right now. They're just, they've really failures. And I don't see why they would hold on to that dumb stuff. Poor Khadijah called, she's listening now, she won't call now. But as soon as I get back, it'll be call. I think I got 3, 4, 5, 6 calls today. They didn't have too much information on who they are and who we are. And you can't fail more than they have. They are abject. It's not even funny. It's such a bad failure. They done made a missed call on everything. On everything. And their timing is off. They call, they want me to do this. The government want me to do that. All them people, I do when I get ready. Not when they, And you could tell when they're antsy. Man, we done set all of this up and now we got this going. We want you to come back. And I say, hell, even a dummy, this fishing, they used to have them little red and white bobs, things that you put on the fishing, on the fishing line. And then you get a little thing, But if you get that boy go woof, you got something on there for it. That's what's happening with them. That's why I call it white man on the line, boss man on the line. They're always, the bell is ringing. Some people got a little bell that ring up at the top of their fishing pole. When they're sitting there and the thing hit it, the little bell, all kind of little old colored stuff they do, The thing is ring, sound like a school bell or a cow bell. We're not on their program. We go back to California when we get ready. It's really like that. We're just not on there. We'll gain or when we lose, whatever it is, we're going by Allah's signs, not their signs. We're going by Allah's signs. We're not going by them dummies. They're real. I try to help them, and I told them years ago that I would help them, and I meant it. All of them. That includes Abdul Malik. That includes Hashim. Them. All of them. They just made a mistake. They didn't know any better. They went to school, and the white man taught them that we do this and we do that. And they came out with that. And if they would have been messing around with anybody else, things would have came out just like White Man said. We do this to niggas, we do that to niggas. You want to be a success, you join us. Well, that's not the way it is right now. All of them are failures. They're abject failures. I can't even explain it. It's unbelievable that they would ruin their whole life. And everybody around them, they've ruined it. Their life is ruined. Abdul Malik thought, well, I'll leave, but I have all these Arabs and the students, and they're going to be, yeah, but you could do that for 4 or 5 years. You could do it for 10 years. But everybody's going to find out. Because I was thinking we're going to be here and we're going to clean all of that up. And everybody in Oakland already knows it. Because they know who we are and they know who they are. They don't even have no imagination. They go right, the building that the Negroes use over on the other side of town, where Mella Yella used to be up there. It's right on Grove Street. The Negro that used to run that African American Association was the biggest snitch and stool pigeon lawyer. Donald Warden, he used to call himself. When he became the Saudis lawyer, he changed his name to Tariq Khalid Al-Mansur or something. Okay, but so like right now, 12 years later, the Arab brothers come in here talking about, what do you want us to do with our bayah? What the hell are you talking about? What do you want us to do with your bayah? When was that, 1992 and 1961 or something? Right, what are you talking about? I haven't seen you since then and you're going to just stroll in here? I mean, I didn't act mad or nothing. I just said, well, I'll be doggone. I thought y'all had forgot about me. Bayah, are you crazy? You know, that's what I'm saying. You must be crazy. But I said, you thought nothing. Okay. Are there any questions or any comments? There's just a ton of stuff to talk about, but we don't want to overdo it. We got the point. We got a great opportunity right now. Allah will help us from avenues that we never even considered. And that's been happening all along. Allah will help us from ways that you just never would imagine it would come from. That's the way things are now. It's just that this is just one of those little high points where it's clear. But this happens all the time. Every day is something, every other day. And also, for boss man, there's too many avenues of decline. We used to say it's too many ways to be a fool to duck them all. There's too many avenues of decline for them to duck them all. Where is he declining? Everywhere. Afghanistan, Iraq. He ain't had no luck in Syria. Over there stealing oil. Can you imagine? He's stealing the oil in front of everybody. But that's emperor with no clothes. You know what I mean? That's emperor with no, everything he tell the truth. Everything they do is emperor with no clothes. He just, I ain't naked, boy, I'm sharp. Look at him, look at here. He ain't butt naked. With a big old red behind, like the baboon. Anyway, let me.
All the leaders are slapping him around.
Huh?
All the leaders are basically slapping him around in the eyes of the public.
It's unbelievable. Okay. Well, this is a period of heartbreaking historical embarrassment for them. That's what we call it here.
The two major ones that they consider
And even, what's old Kim Jong-un up to? His sister said something the other day, she was talking out of the side of her mouth, sound like, yeah, Tucker, y'all think we, you know, and I wouldn't want to mess with no Korean woman talking out the side of her mouth. Boy, that probably hurt your feelings. She could be bad as Negro women talking about you. You know where Negro women can hurt your feelings? They said, you beat the poor woman up. I said, do you know what that girl said? Anyway, girls, I don't mess with them because they can make you, they hurt your feelings, man. And a nigga can't do nothing and talk fast and don't have to make no sense. Yeah, that's not still on, is it? That's okay, that's all right, no problem. This was just an advertisement.